Hello, everyone. Today we will learn about a beautiful poem which was written by William Wordsworth. This poem is considered to be one of the best poems in modern times of William Wordsworth. The poem consists of four stanzas having 6 lines each. William Wordsworth is known as poet of nature. He too called himself a worshipper of nature. He had a firm faith that nature could enlighten the kind heartedness and universal brotherhood of human beings, and only in harmony with nature man can find true happiness. In his opinion, nature has the solution for all the problems of mankind. It is through nature that the poet William Wordsworth seeks salvation, peace, and joy. William Wordsworth has written more than 350 poems during his lifetime, and this poem is very special to him. The theme of the poem is nature's beauty with a mixture of happiness and loneliness. The poet Wordsworth is shown to be lonely, but when he thinks back of the daffodils dancing, means nature's beauty, when he's surrounded by nature, beautiful flowers, nature's gift, he feels happy and content. The theme of this poem, Daffodils, is based on the healing and refreshing power of nature. How easy it is for nature to lift the spirit and the morale of the man, and it is very well depicted in this poem. Now, why the poet chose daffodil flowers only? Why not tulips, lilies? Why not other flowers? Because daffodils are one of the first flowers we can see in springtime, and they are a great indicator that winter is over. Means the daffodil symbolizes rebirth and new beginnings. That's why the poet chose daffodils. Now, here are few word meanings with their part of speech. Please pause the video and go through them one by one. They will help you to understand the poem in a better manner. So let's begin explanation of the poem. Here are the first 6 lines of the poem, the first stanza of the poem. In this poem, the poet describes the impression a cluster of daffodil flowers created in his mind when he sees them while walking, strolling beside a lake which is hemmed by trees. Now, here the poet begins by comparing himself to a cloud. He is wandering alone, he is moving here and there aimlessly from one place to another, just like a cloud which flies over valleys and hills with the flow of the wind. The poet describes his loneliness, comparing his emotions to an isolated cloud, broken off from the rest. As he roams around, walking over valleys and hills, suddenly he sees a lake, and beside the lake there are a large number of golden colored daffodils. They are spread out in long rows and are blooming happily. These daffodils are growing close to the lake, and with the light breeze, they are moving, they are dancing, fluttering with joy and spreading happiness. The flowers were swaying in the breeze, and this was spreading happiness. The poet felt happy relieved of all his tensions. He forgot about all his worries, about his loneliness, and he felt so happy. The poetic devices used in the above stanza are imaginary and assonance. Now, imaginary is when he says, I wandered lonely as a cloud that flows on high or vales and hills. So here he's trying to create that picture for the reader. The poet uses vocab and descriptive language to create vivid images of a single cloud floating over hills and valleys. This allows the reader to create an image similar to the poet. Assonance is when he says that fluttering and dancing in the breeze. So, why is the poet using this fluttering and dancing? He repeats the vowel sound in the sentence in the poem because this will add rhythm to the poem and make it sound pleasant to the reader. The second stanza of the poem, The Daffodils. Here, the poet is is enjoying the daffodils, and they are thousand in numbers. They're infinite. They're as far as he could just see daffodils, all blooming and dancing. So here the poet has compared the daffodils with the stars that shine and twinkle in the Milky Way. Like there are cluster of stars in the Milky Way. Same way he's saying here also he could just see daffodils, golden colored daffodils, twinkling, shining, fluttering with joy, spreading happiness, moving with the breeze. They twinkle as they flutter in the breeze. The daffodils are spread over a large area along the margin of a bay. And all these daffodils are dancing happily with the wind. He further says that the daffodils are tossing and moving their heads, which is depicting joy, and they're depicting joy, emotion. The poet has been profoundly enchanted by the daffodil's beauty, and the flowers appearing full of life and beauty have unfettered the poetic imagination of Wordsworth. The poetic devices used are hyperbole, where the poet says they stretched in a never ending line. Now, here he's saying that the daffodils are in the field infinite number, endless number, but it is that he could just see them. They are in large fields spread all over, and this makes the reader think that the amount of daffodils in the field is infinite. Here, the poetic device personification is used when he says the tossing their heads in sprinkly dance. The poet described the flowers as living beings, means they are tossing their heads, they are moving their heads with breeze. And this creates this scene, this imagination would make the reader think that the daffodils are just, they have human characteristics. And they are also dancing, they are happy, they are depicting joy. Now, here in this stanza, poet has used simile also, where he says continuous as the stars that shine. So he compares the flowers to the stars using a simile. This allows the reader to create an image. The third stanza of the poem Daffodils. The poet says that there were waves. Now, in the beginning, I told you that the poet is walking along the bay. He's strolling beside a lake hemmed by trees. So he says there is water in the lake. And with this breeze, which is blowing. Water is also moving, and you can see waves in the water. Now he's comparing the waves of the water to daffodils. He's saying both are moving with the breeze, but they are that the water waves in the lake are no comparison to the waves of daffodils rippling in the breeze. Means he's saying both are moving, but the beauty of the daffodils is too great and nobody can describe it. And the water waves are in no comparison to that, to the beauty of the daffodils. The joyful company of daffodils is the ultimate source of pleasure for the poet, and he can feel nothing but happiness in the company of the daffodils. The poet kept looking at the daffodils, but he could not fully appreciate the scenery as it was in abundance, and he could take away just a bit of it. So, such beautifully explained, such beautifully written poem by William Wordsworth. Fourth stanza, the last stanza of the poem, the last 6 lines of the poem, which is really very important. Now, in this last stanza of the poem, the poet gives the essence of the poem. The poet speaks about the healing and refreshing effect of nature and also praises solitude, loneliness. When people are alone, lonely, they feel sad. But here the poet is not sad because, according to him, when one is in the state of solitude, one becomes retrospective and meditates on all the good and pleasurable moments which one had or which had happened to him in his life. These memories have a cheerful and lively effect on him. He greatly feels that with him everything is happy. He's feeling happy. And the poet says that whenever he lies on his couch, he's free, he's in a state of solitude, and he lies on his couch having nothing to do. He the images of the daffodils flash upon his imagination. Means that is the time when he thinks in his loneliness, thinks about all the beautiful pictures, imagination, all the beautiful images he's got of the daffodils in his mind. He thinks about them. And when this happens, the poet feels calm, refreshed, motivated, and good about himself. He feels happy. This is how nature influences him. The memories of the daffodils fills his heart with pleasure and joy, and he feels as if his heart is dancing along with the daffodils. This shows the healing and refreshing effect of nature on the poet. Thus, the scene remained as a priceless treasure and an inexhaustible source of joy for the poet William Wordsworth. That's why, very truly, he's been called as the poet of nature. I hope the explanation of the poem is clear to each and everyone. Now, in this slide, I've given you some words. The meaning that wandered lonely as a cloud means going from one place to another without a special reason or purpose. 10,000 at a glance means they were countless. Vacant and pensive. Mood means sad mood, low, when you're feeling sad, depressed. The inward eye means eye of the mind. Like the poet mentions that in his mental or inward eye, the cheerful view of golden daffodils is flashed. So when you think of all the things that happen, so you everything comes alive. Please go through the poem, go through the explanation, word meanings very carefully. read each stanza and the explanation, and I'm very sure this video will help you to understand the poem, The Daffodils, in a better manner. Thank you so much.